To Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, we have a jam-packed show for you this morning. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get straight into our first guest, who is, of course, the CEO of the chairman of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, and that's Miss Alicia Edwards. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, Kandace, and good morning to your viewing audience.
And of course, once you know Miss Edwards is on with us, we are talking tourism. And we are talking about all the various ways in which we are attempting to attract more visitors to the island. And recently, the division released some information that said that we are reaching out to North America. In fact, they had confirmation, the chief secretary even announced that they had confirmation of a new chartered flight from the US to begin sometime in August. So good morning and welcome to you again. And, just give us a little bit more details on this new chartered flight that was announced.
So I want to start, good morning and thank you. I want to start before that and talk a little bit about why the interest in the USA. So as you know, historically, the agency was very much focused on North America, on the UK,
yes.
and Europe. And our research has found that there was a lot of untapped potential in North America, specifically the USA. And so what we've been doing in the last couple of months is setting up ourselves to actually take advantage of the activities and of the opportunities in that particular market. The chartered flight is not organized by us, but as we have been doing in the past with all persons who are doing things that synergize with our goals and objectives, we are synergizing and cooperating with all of those entities whose goals and objectives coincide with ours. And so it was in that vein that we would have attended the CHTA event, Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association event in Barbados in May. And we also went to the Caribbean Week in New York in June.
Great. Now, as you said, we traditionally have been very UK based for our visitors, Germany as well, and those parts of Europe. What's the interest like now? I mean, because for us in Tobago, over the years, it seemed as though we were not quite always what North Americans were looking for. But has there been a change, and what can you tell us that change is?
So most of the other Caribbean islands have been attracting more North American visitors than visitors from the UK and from Europe. The traveling population in the UK is aging. Also, you know that they went through some recent economic issues. And North America has been, I think Tobago is one of the last Caribbean islands to join the game in terms of attracting visitors from North America. What North America means is an opportunity for Tobago to smoothen the income flow from arrivals, because most of the visitors from the Europe and from the UK only come during the winter months. And so there is the issue of how do we create demand and fuel demand at the other times of the year, the April to October period. North Americans have different travel patterns. A lot of them are into flexi work. A lot of them have holidays at different times of the year. And because we're in the same chain, it's easy for them to come down the islands. They're accustomed coming to Barbados and Jamaica and all the other islands. So Tobago is now tapping into that opportunity. We have appointed a representative firm in the market to seek our interests. And we are continuing to build out actions, digital and physical actions in that market to begin to tap into the potential there.
And of course, this flight is expected to help with getting them across to Tobago, the chartered flight. What can you tell us even about that arrangement for the chartered flight? Has there been a start date established yet? How is it going to work?
Right. So as I would have said before, the chartered flight is outside of our arrangement. It's not chartered by us. Mm-hmm. What I can tell you is that one of the things that we have to be careful about is that not to focus only on the airlift. Critical to people coming here is knowing about the destination and being convinced about the destination. And so TTAL is very much focused on those initial actions to bring people into the sales funnel. Because it doesn't matter how many flights we arrange, if people don't know about the island and people are not enticed to coming the island, then they're not going to be here. So it's not just about the flight. The flight is the end game. The flight is what people can see. But setting up the consistent actions in the market to differentiate ourselves from other islands, to weave a story and to convince people to choose Tobago over all else. That is what TTAL has been focusing on doing.
And you guys are doing that through attending various trade shows and events. And tell me a little bit about how those events are helping you guys in putting Tobago's name out there and making sure that we can generate that interest.
Okay, so we went to Caribbean Week in New York. It was from June 5th to 8th. And during Caribbean Week, we had the opportunity to do quite a number of things. At Caribbean Week, it's an opportunity for all CTO members, islands, to come together and to make presentations to media in North America. So we were able to speak to various radio station, TV station, online networks about the island. We also sponsored and hosted the media launch on the Thursday, and we were able to do a full destination brief, sharing about Tobago and sharing some of the activities and products of the island. We also took the opportunity to pay a courtesy call at the Consulate General Trinidad and Tobago in New York and to talk about ways that we could partner more meaningfully with them in terms of their diaspora outreach and other general arrangements. And so it really was an excellent opportunity for us. What we found was a very receptive media. A lot of people were either of Caribbean origin, and so there was that nostalgia. And then we met some people who knew about Tobago, who may have represented Tobago, and who may have covered Tobago in times past. So they were very happy to see us officially in the market because we have attended Caribbean Week before, but attending Caribbean Week without having the requisite support infrastructure in the market is useless. So now we feel that those actions can be leveraged because there is continuing action after we have packed up and come back home.
And what have we seen come out of those outreaches so far?
Yeah. Well, I always caution you that we plant seeds in the work that we do.
Yes.
And so a lot of the actions that we take only bear fruit maybe 6 to 9 months out. So the actions that we took January, February, even now, are really to create interest and to cause people to book to come later in the year. What these actions that we took in New York are intended to do is to really raise the profile of Tobago in the North American space, to support an aggressive digital campaign that we have ongoing in that space, and to really give us an opportunity to get the word out about Tobago. Our budget for North America, as our entire budget is quite small. And so what we have found is that the intimacy of personal visits and interviews and those kinds of things are going a long way to help us rather than the consumer marketing that a lot of islands are able to do a lot more ramped up than we have.
What aspect of the presentations or just the advertising that you did through the Caribbean Week, what aspect of that resounded mostly with the participants, with the prospective visitors?
Right. So I was chosen to do the presentation, and instead of talking about the island from the eyes of a tourist, I talked about the Tobago that I knew. So yes, we talked about sea and beaches, and everywhere has a sea and beach. But I talked a little bit about what the beach represented for me as somebody who grew up in Dallaford. The fact that the beach was really for sometimes an opportunity to go every day. We went every morning and we took a dip. It was a place where you would pick up shells, where you would take almonds, where you would have a little raft made out of bamboo and do things. I talk about how Tobagonians use the beach to take a dip, sap their knee, go every morning, that we're not really the lining on the beach kind. I talk about fish. I talk about sea moss. So I really talked about Tobago from the eyes of a Tobagonian. And so it resounded and people came up after and said, oh, wow. I talked about the beauty of the sunsets, how the birds sing for us every morning, the cleanliness of the air, the freshness of the food. And those things, what we're finding is that there is a need for marketing that is authentic, an opportunity for people who live in a space to talk about the space and to share that space and share the experiences in that space. And that really went on well. And it really is something that we're doing more in the agency, where we are using ourselves to tell our own story, where we're not depending on persons external to Tobago to say what Tobago is and to share what Tobago can be. Because if you haven't lived here or spent any significant time here, it's hard for you to convince people how special this place is.
Certainly. And even when you look at a lot of what's happening in North America, there's a move towards, better lifestyles and so on. Things like veganism and all of that is gathering steam. How can we in Tobago capitalize on those culture shifts that are happening and position ourselves to welcome these people?
Yeah, I'm very grateful to that question because, as you know, the agency currently officially markets itself on four pillars: romance, sea and beaches, ecotourism, and people, culture, and heritage. We are in the process at the agency of building out another pillar, fifth pillar, which we call wellness. And it's not wellness from the perspective of a spa, but it's wellness from the perspective that green spaces are healing, fresh breezes are healing, water is healing, the bush tea that we take for granted is healing, the herbs that we are cutting down and putting lawn grass for are healing, petting dogs and seeing animals and fishes and birds fly is healing. And so we're trying to build out niche offerings in the wellness category and start to market the destination as a place where people can revive, reset, rejuvenate, and just get away for a bit before they get back into the craziness that's the world.
And sometimes, like, when we hear those big words, I would say, like, being a vegan, I mean, it seems so foreign. But when you look at some of our culture, especially in the gastronomic culture of us, there's a lot of that in there.
Yes,
And
naturally,
what
because
do you, what parts of that are people attracted to?
when we have people come over, people love the freshness of the food. A lot of the greens and so that we have are not similar to the greens that they have in North America. Callaloo is a big thing, or fish and or seafood is a big thing for people who may not be vegan but vegetarian. Even for meat eaters, the freshness of our meat, because a lot of the meat is, we still have butchers and abattoirs and all of those things. All of those things add to the flavor, and we may think of them as basic, but we take for granted that a lot of people who live in other parts of the world have to pay a lot for what they call organic food. When you go to Whole Foods and you see the price of uh, help me out, a five
Yeah.
fingers, or you see the
Or
price of a
mango or
pomerat, or you see the
zabuka.
price of a mango, or you see the little puny zabuka that the Mexicans sell. I think they call them hasa. When you see and you taste the quality of those, you realize that Tobago is a very special place. So we've been featuring those, and we've been encouraging not just through our advertising, but through the people who visit us, because we recently, yesterday, we closed off a North American press trip where we had journalists from the USA and Canada with us for a week, and they went all around the island, sampling the food, focusing on the experiences, so that they can document and share how beautiful the island is.
All right, great. Now we're going to take a pause here, but we'll be continuing this conversation when we come back after this quick break.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion starts running Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, we are continuing our conversation with Miss Alicia Edwards, Executive Chairman of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited. Now, TTAL was represented at the Caribbean Travel Marketplace in Barbados from May 8th to the 11th, where some interesting things happened, and they were able to engage the Caribbean Tourism Authority on several different things that can benefit Tobago. So I wanted to share a little bit about some of those things that came out of that outreach.
Okay, so the team that went to CHTA was myself, the marketing officer that is regional, Miss Andra Jofield. She couldn't be here this morning because she just wrapped up that trip yesterday, and a member of our board. While we were there, we took the opportunity to hold a press conference in Barbados to remind people about that connecting flight that we have with CAL, because there's always a need for that reminder.
Yes, because I mean, even recently I came back from Barbados, and that flight was not utilized.
Yes. That the thing about it is that there's always ongoing work to do in the market. And one of the things that we're doing is that while we were there, we had a destination brief for travel agents in Barbados. And we spoke to Carl, and we are in the midst of planning a road show to Barbados to really drum up support around the flight. But I want to talk about cooperation because all of the things that we're doing are not actions that we're taking alone. In conjunction with CAL, we have agreed that there is need for us to do more joint marketing and promotion of the flight. So the roadshow to Barbados would be the beginning of those actions. We are planning it with the regional manager there. And we don't have dates as yet, but it's definitely something that we're going to have to do. Go to the malls, go to whatever, because there's a lot of interest for Bajans to come to Tobago. What the research has shown us is that Tobago is the most searched Caribbean destination for people in Barbados.
Oh,
so there is
that's very
opportunity
interesting.
there. And so it's now for us to follow up with the necessary actions to drum up support. The other thing that we're finding with the CTO and the Caribbean arrangement is that a lot more islands post-COVID are recognizing the importance of coming together. And so over the last couple of months that I've been attending the CTO meetings, quite a few countries are coming back into the fold, being approved to rejoin the CTO because there is strength in numbers. A lot of the issues that plague Tobago are the same issues that plague some of our small neighbors: connectivity, airlift, the cost of seats, the budget for marketing, and all of the other developmental things that impact tourism. And so by coming together with some of our colleagues, there is now an opportunity for us to agitate at the level of CARICOM for some of the changes that has to happen. So for example, IATA, who sets the taxes and so for airlift, that is a body that has interaction at the heads of government level at CARICOM, so the ministers of tourism, etc. And for the longest while, there has been the intention to review the taxes on flights. If those taxes are removed or reduced, it will automatically make travel between the region between 35 to 50% cheaper.
Wow.
And so there is good reason for islands to come together and coalesce around that point, because once the flights are more affordable, it makes it easier for people to do the inter-island hop. So it would be cheaper for you to come to Tobago rather than go to Miami. So we are heartened by the renewed interest in the synergy and the cooperation, and we are working and playing our part in that regional arrangement, because together we are much stronger than we are separately.
Certainly, and that was also the message that came from CARICOM heads of government. And we're seeing it more strongly in recent times. But even though it's been spoken about for years, this has been something that has been discussed for a long period of time. It hasn't been able to happen yet. I think Liat was at one point in time was supposed to be the catalyst for that happening. We know how Liat turned out, but is there any initiative being put in place, any action being made to improve the connectivity between our islands?
Right. So one of the things that I've been noticing at the level of the CTO is the level of involvement of the various ministers of tourism. So when you go to these events, we are seeing ministers of tourism of most of the islands coming and participating so that they could understand the needs of their participants. And they are going back to their governments and their cabinets and making the necessary recommendations for things to change, because everything happens at the level of government in that case. We also are seeing that the private sector is becoming more nimble in terms of how it's responding. So there is a new airline that's doing a lot of inter-regional traffic. I think it's Inter-Caribbean
yes.
Airline. We have initiated some discussions with them as well. There is also another airline called Air Antilles that has been doing the French-speaking Caribbean and running routes through St. Lucia and so. So between the public and the private sector and the tourism sector, there's a lot of quiet collaboration and moves to do what we have to do. We saw recently the announcement of a Windward ferry that would do a maxi run. Well, I call it a sea maxi run through the islands. And again, all of those things help with connectivity, because you see, the islands look similar, but they are all very different. And there are so many opportunities for interregional travel, interregional trade, interregional cultural exchanges that can come about from better connectivity. And we are all for helping people in Tobago make more money from the things that make us special.
Even some of the major, let me say, the rum industry, some of the major players in the rum industry in Barbados suggested having like a rum Caribbean tour, because we know all our islands we produce rum, and there's an interest. There's a group of people that are interested in things like that, and not just rum. There's so many things that are similar. We have cocoa in many of our islands. We all produce great chocolates. You know, of course, we say that Tobago is the best, but all of the islands have something great to offer. You know, are we exploring those ideas where, based on a specific niche, you could go island hopping and do a tour over the islands for these things?
Yes, we recognize that there's a lot of potential there. For example, cricket is a great unifier around the islands, and we have not done enough to explore the potential of sport and different sporting activities within the region. Another big unifier is culture, because even though we have music in the different islands, all the music is different. Different islands have different instruments. Even though there's carnival all over the islands now, each island's carnival is very different. I was in Curacao for their carnival, and their music sounded more like parang to me. It was
Because they have more of that Spanish influence.
Yes, it sounded like parang to me. So the star of the show, which may be equivalent to a Marshall Montano or whoever, etc., was a lady in her 60s in a white dress that looked like a wedding dress. And she was there with a fan and some flowers looking like Daisy Voisin. And she was singing what was their calypso. And everybody in the audience, instead of having a rag, they had like a fedora hat that they were waving, and they were doing this dance. And their carnival's festivity is well patronized. In St. Lucia, there's a different energy to the carnival. Spice Mass is different. So all of those things, even though they may seem similar, there is a different source, there is a different sweetness that each island has. And so the conversations around multi-destination trips, because a lot of our airlines do hops across various islands, those are some of the things that we are exploring as well. We are also continuing our collaboration with Tourism Trinidad Limited, because one of the things that can happen, and one of the things that we need to do more of, would be the Twin Island holidays, not just for birding and eco watching, because there is a good synergy between bird watching on Tobago and bird watching and turtle nesting in the Grand Riviera area in Trinidad, as well as the Acerite Center. But in other areas, there is an opportunity for us to synergize. Trinidad is where the hotness is, Tobago is the cool place. Let us encourage people to come for 10 and 14-day holidays, 5 days in one island, 8 days in another, 6 in another, so that stakeholders can continue to benefit more from what is already there and what's already available.
We have the Commonwealth Games coming up in August. What opportunities does that present for Tobago in terms of marketing and selling a destination?
Right. So any opportunity where the island is on showcase is a good opportunity for Titan. We have seen how Qatar has made a name for itself, and they have piggybacked on the prominence of the World Cup to really talk and share who they are and to dispel some myths around their destination. Titan has been cooperating with the organizing committee to focus and to draw some of our marketing actions from those games. And what it does, it puts a spotlight on the opportunities in Tobago for the various activities. I know that there's a beach volleyball pavilion, setup that's being built out in Black Rock. And we have been talking with the division about some of the legacy strategies and the ways that we can continue to use those amenities post-games to build out what will come naturally for the destination.
All right, so I think we're about to take a quick break now, but we're not quite done with Miss Edwards. So we are enjoying our conversations this morning. So viewers, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversations with the Executive Chairman of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, Mrs. Alicia Edwards. So another major part of selling the destination, is making sure our stakeholders are on board. And one of the mandates from this present administration of the THA is to improve stakeholder relations. And we saw that TTEL has been doing so. They've had several stakeholder consultations. Tell me a little bit more about the engagement that the agency has been doing with our stakeholders to sort of improve that relationship.
So thank you so much for that question. So when we came on board and we started examining what we are supposed to do and the best way to achieve it, we decided to agree that TTAL was really support architecture for the people who make things happen. And so our work could not continue without their dedicated and continuous input. We opted to do it in a number of ways. One, the stakeholder conferences that we are holding, we call them the partnership forums that we're holding every quarter, are really an opportunity to come to stakeholders and report on what we've done, to share our plans with them, and also to ask for their support on surmounting some of the challenges that we identify as we do our work. But separate and apart from that, we have been going out more as an agency. My outfit today is this relaxed because we are heading out to visit a stakeholder. We've been going out as a team, marketing, product, etc. We've been going out to meet the people that we represent, to see what they do, to see them in action, to hear about their concerns, to find out how the agency can partner with them, and also to find out how they want themselves represented. What we're finding as we go out, we're also taking stakeholders with us on our various initiatives. For example, we have the bird fair coming up in the UK in a couple of weeks, and 2 of our experienced birders are going there. When there are dive operations, we take divers. When we went to CHTA recently, members of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association came along with us, shared our meetings, and were a part of the arrangement. And so the work is really a lot more on the ground. We are there serving people, and before you serve people, you have to know who they are, know what they need, understand what their perspective is, and we're doing that while simultaneously making our plans flow around what they want and what is good for the interest, the sector, and for Tobago in the end.
Now, as you're going out, what are you discovering about Tobago and what we have to offer? Because, and I say this in the context of a lot of people like to say or like to accuse the administration of not knowing what we're selling. You know, Tobago doesn't have nothing anyway for tourism other than the beaches and so on. You know, so what are the unique things that you are seeing there? What do we have within our space that we may not know?
Right. So one of the challenges that we have is that we are seeing ourselves from our own eyes. And when you have something with you all the time, you take it for granted. So yesterday, we sent home 8 journalists from North America and Canada who spent 5 days on the island. When you ask them what were the things that was most beneficial for them, you know what they told me? A couple of things. One, that they were here, they were in Castara, and they were down on the west side, and every single morning at 6 o'clock, they got up and they went to the beach for a dip. Because where they're from, the beach is a plan. You have to plan. You have to drive 3 and 4 hours to get to a beach. You have to take a plane for a beach. So they would go to the beach every single morning. In between the various appointments that they had during the day, if they had any downtime, they would go back for a dip in the afternoon. They were enthralled by the freshness of our seafood, right? We take the fish for granted. Some people don't eat fish. They were enthralled by the freshness of our seafood. They loved the flavors of the cuisine. They talked about the spices and the flavoring and the pairings, the generosity of the servings, things that we take for granted. They talked about the warmth of the people, right? They spoke about the knowledge and the expertise of our stakeholders because they went on various tours and activities, and they were amazed at how experienced and knowledgeable those stakeholders are. The final tour that they went on, we did the bioluminescence tour with Dwayne, Kenny, and his brother at
Radical.
Radical. And it was not just the tour, but the kind of scientific explanations that we got, the attention to safety, and all of those things showcase the destination in a positive light. So I want to say to Tobago people that do not take the things that we have for granted. We were in Barbados a couple of weeks ago, and I took pictures of the main street, and I said, we quarrel about Scarborough all the time, how awful and how dilapidated Scarborough looks. And Scarborough looks like most other Caribbean cities. There may be one or two high-rise buildings elsewhere, but we were in Barbados, and the main street looked like Scarborough. There were old buildings, there were dilapidated buildings, there were people who didn't have homes, and somehow or the other, people do not expect polished perfection from the destination. People are more about an authentic experience. People are very enthralled by the warmth, the energy of the people, the expertise and the sincerity of stakeholders. And those are the things that we are heartened about, because on none of the visits that we've had, none of the feedback that we've had, we have got negatives in that regard. Yes, there's room for improvement, as there always is, but in general, the feedback from all our visitors and from all the people who are coming to film and share has been extremely positive.
And that's certainly an excellent point to conclude our conversation. I want to thank you so much, Mrs. Alicia Edwards, for being on with us and for giving us your perspectives as we continue to market Destination Tobago to the world.
Yes, and if you'd allow me, I just always like to end, my person would kill me if I don't end, by talking a little bit about how you can contact us. So you can go to our website. Our website is tobagobeyond.com. You can call us by phone, 868-612-8825. We have an email address, info@tobagotourism.org. And then for our social media platforms, you can find us at Visit Tobago on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
I want to thank you so much, Ms. Alicia Edwards, for being on with us. And viewers, if you are in tourism, however small part you are playing in it, get connected with the agency and see how you can partner and improve your business as we improve as they try to improve the visitors to the destination. All right, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this break.
We are people in the sun.